There is a version of your life happening right now in another direction that you have simply not chosen yet. Not a fantasy, not a daydream, an actual available path sitting right next to the one your feet are on, waiting for you to take a single different step today. Most people never notice it. They walk right past the fork in the road because they are too busy complaining about the road they are already on. And here is the uncomfortable question I want to put in front of you before we go any further. If nothing changes in the next 12 months, if you keep doing exactly what you have been doing, exactly how you have been doing it, are you excited about where you will be standing? Or is there a small, quiet voice inside you that already knows the answer and has known it for a while now, whispering it to you late at night when the house is quiet and there is nobody left to perform for? Maybe you have been telling yourself you are just in a slow season. Maybe you have been waiting for things to calm down, waiting for the right moment, waiting to feel motivated before you make a move. Perhaps right now, you are surrounded by people who talk about their dreams the same way they talk about the weather, as something that simply happens to them rather than something they shape with their own two hands. Maybe you have quietly started blaming your job, your upbringing, your bad luck, the economy, the people who let you down along the way. And I am not here to tell you none of that is real. Some of it is very real. Some of it truly was unfair. But I am here to tell you something else that is also very real. None of that is the reason you are stuck today. You are stuck because you have been waiting for a feeling instead of building a habit. You have been hoping for a rescue instead of constructing a discipline. Perhaps you have opened your banking app more than once this month and felt that small drop in your stomach and then closed it and told yourself you would deal with it later. Perhaps you have started the same book 3 times or signed up for the same course twice or made the same New Year's promise for the 4th year running. Maybe you look at somebody you knew years ago, someone who was not smarter than you, not more talented than you, and you feel a strange mix of admiration and quiet resentment when you see where they ended up. That feeling is not jealousy. That feeling is your own potential, tapping you on the shoulder, reminding you it is still in there, still waiting. Maybe you have caught yourself explaining your situation to a stranger, or to yourself in the mirror, using the exact same sentence you used a year ago, word for word, as if the sentence itself has become a comfortable place to live rather than a description of a temporary problem. Maybe you tell yourself you will start once things settle down, once the schedule clears up, once the kids are a little older, once the busy season at work finally ends, without noticing that there has never once been a season in your entire adult life that simply cleared itself out of its own accord. Perhaps you have quietly stopped setting goals altogether, because setting a goal and not reaching it felt worse than never having set one in the first place. So somewhere along the way, you decided it was safer to want nothing specific at all. And deep down, you already suspect all of this. That is exactly why you clicked on this today instead of scrolling past it like you have scrolled past 100 other things this week. So let's talk about what actually rebuilds a life. One plain truth at a time, the way a man builds a house, one board at a time. Not by wishing the house into existence overnight, and not by watching someone else build theirs and calling it inspiration, while your own plot of land sits empty. The first truth is this: life moves in seasons, and the seasons do not ask your permission. There is a planting season, and there is a harvest season. There is a growing season, and there is a winter that strips everything bare and leaves the ground looking like nothing could ever grow there again. You do not get to negotiate with the seasons. You cannot call up winter and ask for an extension on spring. You cannot beg the growing season to arrive early because you are not ready yet, because you had a rough year, because life got in the way. The farmer who ignores this reality does not get a pass from nature. If he sits around in springtime, arms crossed, waiting to feel inspired to plant his seeds, autumn will still arrive right on schedule, and his field will still be empty, and nature will not apologize to him for it, no matter how good his excuses sounded back in April. And your life works exactly the same way. You have seasons too. Seasons where the opportunities are wide open and the energy is there and everything seems to move in your favor. Seasons where things get hard and quiet and slow, where nothing seems to be working no matter how much effort you throw at it. The seasons don't ask your permission, but here is the part that changes everything. The part most people never fully absorb. While you cannot change the seasons, you can absolutely change yourself. That single distinction is the difference between people who spend their whole life complaining about winter and people who use winter to prepare, to sharpen their tools, to plan the next planting, so that when spring finally comes, they are ready to move fast while everyone else is still rubbing their eyes and wondering where the year went. Ask yourself honestly, what season are you in right now? And more importantly, are you behaving like someone who understands what this particular season requires of them? Think about the people you know who seem to always land on their feet, no matter what life throws at them. It is rarely luck. It is almost always the quiet fact that they spent their winter preparing while everyone else was busy complaining about the cold. They read the book during the slow months. They built the relationship during the boring years. They saved a little money during the season when nobody would have blamed them for spending it all. And then, when the door finally opened, they were simply ready, standing there with their tools already sharpened, while the people around them were still scrambling to figure out what season it even was. You have almost certainly lived through a winter of your own already. Think back to it for a moment. What did you do with it? Did you use it, or did you simply survive it and wait for it to pass? Because here is the hard truth underneath all of this. Winter will come again. It always does. The only real question is whether you will meet the next one prepared, or whether you will be caught off guard again, telling yourself the same story you told yourself last time. Your action step today is simple. Stop asking your circumstances to change first. Ask instead what kind of person this season requires you to become, and start becoming that person before the season ends, not after it has already passed you by. The second truth follows right behind the first, and it is the one people resist the hardest because it takes the easy excuse away from them completely. You do not need more motivation. You need more discipline. Motivation is a spark. It is loud, it is exciting, and it burns out fast, usually faster than you expect it to. You have felt it before, haven't you? You watch an inspiring video, you feel fired up for 2 or 3 days, you clean your whole house, you make a plan, you tell somebody about your new commitment, and by day 4, you are right back where you started, wondering what happened to that fire that felt so real just 72 hours earlier. That is because motivation was never built to carry you long term. It is a match, not a furnace. A match gives you light for a few seconds and then it is gone, and you are left standing in the dark again, fumbling for another one. Discipline is the furnace. Discipline is what keeps producing heat long after the match has gone out, long after the feeling has left the building entirely, long after nobody is watching or clapping or commenting encouragement underneath your posts. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day, not complicated, not flashy. A short list of ordinary actions, repeated with a stubbornness that most people simply refuse to maintain past the first hard week. Read for 20 minutes. Move your body, even when it is raining, even when you are tired, even when nobody would know if you skipped it. Track what you spend, down to the small purchases you tell yourself do not count. Make the calls you have been avoiding for months. None of it is hard to understand. All of it is hard to sustain, and that gap between understanding and sustaining is exactly where most people quietly give up and call it bad luck instead of what it actually is, which is simply a choice. Repeated or a choice abandoned. You don't need more motivation. You need more discipline, and no amount of watching other people succeed will substitute for you building that furnace yourself. Think about what actually happens inside your head on the days you do not feel like doing the thing. That feeling, that resistance, that small voice telling you to skip it just this once. is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is simply the moment where discipline is either built or quietly abandoned. Everybody feels that resistance. The difference between the person who ends up where they wanted to be and the person who does not is rarely the absence of that feeling. It is what they do the moment the feeling shows up. One person honors the feeling and skips the workout, skips the reading, skips the hard conversation, and tells themselves they will make up for it tomorrow. The other person notices the feeling, acknowledges it, and does the thing anyway, not because they suddenly feel motivated, but because they already decided days or weeks earlier that this was simply what they do now. That is the entire secret hiding in plain sight. Discipline is not a personality trait some people were born with and others were not. Discipline is a decision made once, in advance, so that you do not have to keep making it every single day under pressure. Your action step is this. Pick one discipline, just one, small enough that you cannot talk yourself out of it on a bad day, and commit to it for the next 30 days without negotiating with yourself when the feeling disappears. That one habit, kept honestly, will do more for your life than 100 bursts of motivation ever could. The third truth is about the company you keep, and it is one of the most quietly powerful ideas in this entire philosophy. Precisely because it works on you silently, without your consent, whether you believe in it or not. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their habits become your habits without you ever noticing the transfer taking place. Their standards become your ceiling. Their excuses become your excuses, borrowed so smoothly you start to believe they were your own original thoughts all along. This is not about being cold or cutting people out of your life carelessly, and it is not about looking down on anyone. It is about being honest with yourself about the direction certain relationships are quietly pulling you. If the people around you are comfortable settling, comfortable complaining, comfortable staying exactly where they are year after year, some of that comfort will rub off on you whether you invite it or not. The same way a cold gets passed around a room without anyone meaning for it to happen. And if you spend time, even just an hour a week, around people who are disciplined, who are building something real, who talk about their future the way a person talks about a house they are actually constructing, rather than a lottery ticket they are hoping to win someday, that energy rubs off too, and it rubs off just as silently. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And part of what you do about it is choosing, deliberately, who gets access to your time and your attention and your evenings. Ask yourself, who did you talk to most this past week? And did that conversation leave you sharper or did it leave you smaller? This does not mean you need to make some dramatic announcement or cut anybody off in anger. Most of the time it is quieter than that. It simply means being a little more intentional about where your time actually goes. It means noticing that the friend who only ever wants to talk about what is wrong with the world leaves you feeling heavier every single time, while the friend who talks about what they are building leaves you feeling like you want to go build something too. It means noticing which group chat drains you and which one sharpens you. It means being honest that the 5 hours you spent this week watching people online complain about things they have no intention of ever changing were 5 hours you could have spent around someone who actually challenges you to grow. You get to choose, slowly and quietly, to spend a little more time near the second kind of person and a little less time near the first. Nobody has to know you made the decision. You simply start showing up in different rooms, both literally and online. And over time, those rooms start to shape you the same way water shapes stone, not through force, but through steady, repeated contact. Your action step is to look honestly at your 5 closest influences this week, whether that is people or the content you consume daily on your phone, and ask which of them are pulling you toward the life you actually want, and which are quietly anchoring you to the one you have been trying to leave behind for years. The fourth truth is about what you plant, because a harvest never lies about the seed that produced it, no matter how much we wish it would. If you want a different harvest next year, the work is not in complaining about this year's crop. The work is in planting something different today, while nobody is watching and nobody is applauding you for it. Most people want the harvest without ever wanting the discipline of the planting season that comes before it. They want the fit body without the early mornings. They want the thriving business without the unglamorous years of small, boring, repeated effort that nobody posts about online. But the garden does not care what you want. The garden only responds to what you actually plant and actually tend, day after unremarkable day. Every day you spend scrolling instead of building is a seed you did not plant. Every excuse you make, no matter how reasonable it sounds in the moment, is a weed you allowed to grow instead of pulling it while it was still small and manageable. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And today, right now, while you are listening to this, is another planting day whether you treat it that way or not. The seasons don't ask your permission, and neither does the garden wait for you to feel ready. Think about a garden left completely untouched for a single season. It does not stay empty. It does not simply wait patiently for you to return. It fills itself with weeds, with whatever wants to grow there on its own, without your permission and without your input. Your life works exactly the same way. If you are not deliberately planting the habits, the relationships, the skills, and the disciplines you actually want to see grow, something is still growing in that space regardless. Distraction grows there. Comparison grows there. A slow, creeping resentment toward people who did plant their seeds grows there too, whether you notice it happening or not. This is why so many people feel like their life is standing still even while time keeps moving forward, relentlessly. The field was never actually empty. It was simply full of the wrong things, growing wild because nobody was tending it on purpose. Your action step is to ask yourself, honestly, what seed you planted yesterday, and then plant one small, deliberate seed today, something you can point to tonight before you fall asleep and say, that, right there, is a seed for the life I actually want, not the life I have quietly been settling for. The fifth truth is about becoming more, because this philosophy was never really about chasing more money or more stuff for its own sake. It was about becoming more, so that more naturally follows behind you like a shadow. Do not wish it were easier, wish you were better. Do not wish for fewer problems, wish for more skill to meet the problems you already have. Money comes and goes, opportunities come and go, but who you have become stays with you and keeps producing results long after any single win has faded from memory. This is why two people can be handed the exact same opportunity on the exact same day, and one turns it into a foundation for the rest of their life, while the other lets it slip through his fingers within a year and blames the opportunity itself for not being good enough. The difference was never the opportunity. The difference was who each person had become before the opportunity ever arrived at their door. You don't need more motivation, you need more discipline, and discipline practiced long enough is simply what becoming looks like from the outside. Consider two people starting the exact same job on the exact same day, at the exact same pay, with the exact same manager. 5 years later, one of them is running a department, and the other is still doing almost exactly what they were doing on day one, quietly frustrated, quietly convinced the company simply never gave them a fair shot. What actually happened in between those two outcomes was rarely dramatic. It was thousands of small decisions about what to do with the hours nobody was tracking. One of them read the industry articles on their lunch break. One of them asked the uncomfortable questions in meetings instead of staying quiet and safe. One of them treated every small task as a chance to get slightly better at their craft, while the other treated every small task as simply something to survive until the workday ended. Neither of them could see the 5-year difference forming in real time. It only becomes visible looking backward. That is exactly why becoming more has to be a decision you make before you can see the proof that it worked, not after. Your action step here is to invest in yourself this week the way you would invest in a piece of land you actually intended to build on. One book, one skill, one honest conversation with someone further down the road than you. treated not as an occasional luxury, but as the actual work of building a life. The sixth truth ties the rest together, and it is the simplest and the hardest at the same time, which is usually how the most important truths tend to behave. Set the goal, and then let the goal set you. A written goal does something a wish can never do. It forces a decision. It forces a direction. It forces you to choose on paper in ink what you are actually building toward instead of drifting toward whatever life happens to hand you next. Most people drift through their years with vague hopes instead of specific targets. And then they wonder, at 40, at 50, why nothing ever quite arrived the way they imagined it would when they were young. You do not need 100 goals scattered in every direction. You need one clear, specific written goal that scares you slightly and excites you completely, and then a plan broken down into the disciplines we already talked about. Practice daily, season after season, seed after seed, furnace burning steadily long after the match has gone cold. A vague hope keeps you comfortable because it never actually demands anything specific from you. You can hold on to a vague hope for decades without ever having to measure yourself against it, without ever having to admit it did not happen. A written goal is the opposite of comfortable, and that is exactly why it works. Once it is written down in specific words, with a specific shape, you can no longer pretend you do not know what you are supposed to be doing with your days. You either move toward it, or you look at it and know honestly that you did not. That discomfort is not something to avoid. That discomfort is the entire engine. It is the thing that will pull you out of bed on the mornings the feeling is gone. Because the goal on the page does not care about your feelings. It only cares whether you showed up again today the way you said you would. Your action step tonight is to write down, in one sentence, the specific life you are actually building toward. Not a vague feeling, an actual sentence you could read out loud to another person without flinching or softening it. Now let me be honest with you for a moment, because I would be lying to you if I made any of this sound easy, and you would see right through me if I tried. I have watched people, good people, disciplined in every other area of their life, still fall back into the same patterns they swore they had left behind for good. I have felt that pull myself. The pull to wait one more day, to start Monday instead of today, to tell myself I would feel more ready tomorrow morning after a good night's sleep. The truth is, you will probably fall off this path more than once. You will have weeks where the discipline slips quietly, where the seed does not get planted, where you spend time with the wrong 5 people again because it was comfortable and easy and required nothing of you. That does not disqualify you from any of this. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And falling off the path is simply another season, one you have full permission to walk back out of the moment you decide to, without shame, without needing to explain yourself to anybody. The people who eventually build the life they wanted were never the people who never stumbled along the way. They were the people who kept returning to the disciplines, quietly, without an audience, long after the motivation that started this whole thing had worn completely off, and nobody was left cheering them on but themselves. I want to admit something else to you here, because it would be dishonest to end this conversation pretending I am simply handing this down to you from somewhere above it all. Every single person who has ever taught this philosophy, every person who has ever repeated these ideas on a stage or in a book or in a video like this one, has also had their own private season of drifting. Nobody arrives at discipline and stays there permanently, untouched, immune to the pull of comfort for the rest of their life. What separates the people who eventually rebuild something real is not that they figured out how to never slip. It is that they got quietly good at noticing the slip sooner, forgiving themselves faster, and returning to the plain, boring, unglamorous disciplines without turning it into a whole identity crisis every single time. You are allowed to be imperfect at this and still become someone entirely different 5 years from now. In fact, you are required to be imperfect at this because perfection was never actually part of the deal. Consistency was the deal. Showing back up was the deal. That is the whole quiet secret sitting underneath everything we have talked about today. So here is the one line I want sitting in your chest after this video ends, the one I want you to carry with you into tomorrow morning. You do not rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your disciplines, and today is the day you decide which one that will actually be for you. In the next 24 hours, before you let yourself off the hook with another familiar excuse, do one thing, just one. Plant the seed you have been avoiding for weeks. Make the call you have been putting off. Open the book that has been sitting on your nightstand collecting dust. Set the alarm earlier than feels comfortable. Write the goal down in one honest, specific sentence. Small, yes. But real, and real is what actually builds a life. One plain, unremarkable day at a time, long after everyone else has stopped watching. Do not wait for a better version of this feeling to arrive before you act on it. This feeling, the one sitting in your chest right now, listening to these words, is already enough to work with. It does not need to grow stronger. It does not need to be validated by anybody else's approval before it counts. You have everything you actually need to take one honest step in the next 24 hours, and waiting for more certainty, more comfort, or more proof that it will work is simply another way of postponing the season you already know you are ready for. The seasons don't ask your permission, and neither does this moment. It is simply here, in front of you, the same way it was here yesterday, and the same way it will be gone tomorrow, whether you used it or not. If something in this reached you today, if some part of you already knows which discipline you have been quietly avoiding, do not just scroll past it and forget it by tonight. Type one word in the comments below, the one word that represents what you are committing to starting tomorrow morning, and let that word be the first seed of the season you are finally ready to walk into.